We begin this week with a look at commodity prices. Corn and soybean futures plunged following the long 4th of July weekend at the Chicago Board of Trade. On Tuesday, corn futures for December dropped 6% to $7.02 a bushel. The situation was similar for November soybeans. Futures dropped about $1.50 just the first 2 days of the week to $14.81 a bushel. However, soybeans started rebounding on Wednesday. Wheat futures also took a hit, dropping by more than 2% to just more than $8 a bushel. Analysts believe an increase in the value of the U.S. dollar and worries about slower economic growth led to sudden sell-off and drop in prices. One factor that played a part in the sudden drop of commodity prices was the release of the USDA Crop Progress Report. To find out more about how that's impacting Louisiana farmers, we turn to This Week in Louisiana Agriculture's A.J. Sabine. A.J.?
Well, folks, as we just learned, grain prices have really tanked this past week, and joining us now to talk more about that is Dave Bollock. Dave, welcome back from your vacation. And it couldn't be better timing because a lot of folks are worried about what's going on, particularly with grain prices, as we just learned. Not to mention the USDA has come out with a planted acreage report. Kind of shed some light on that report in light of the grain prices.
Well, the report was very much looked forward to. We've been talking about all the flooding in the Midwest and everything and what was the effect on the planted acres. So USDA had done a special survey the week prior to their release of the report just to get a grasp on that. And the numbers that came out were surprising, especially for the corn market. I mean, it was a given before the report that we had lost some corn acres and everything. And in fact, USDA came out with a little over 87 million acres, an increase of about 1.3 million. Soybeans looking for a big increase because the thought was that we've lost acres in corn. It's too late to plant them. They're going to plant them in soybeans. In fact, we only saw about 150,000 acre increase in soybeans. So, you know, bad news for corn from the increase, really kind of neutral on the soybeans, and yet we saw soybeans really take off after the report. Both of them, corn, soybeans, going in opposite directions. And right now, with the report behind us, the market's going to trade these acres, and then we're just going to be watching weather to see how this crop actually turns out.
Dave, speaking of weather, over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we have been inundated with media coverage of the floods in the Midwest. How is that going to affect Louisiana growers, particularly as we move into the reproductive phase of soybeans and corn?
Well, I think the main effect of the floods, other than what it did to the ultimate acreage out there, is it's pushed a lot of the crop behind. You know, Louisiana, we end up with some of the first soybeans that come off and a very early corn crop and everything. We're gonna have a lot of this corn and soybean crop from the Midwest. That's gonna, assuming we make a decent crop, it's still gonna be harvested later. So what it may do is, I think, put more, importance on whatever the early harvest is in Louisiana and parts of the Delta and everything, because we may have to bridge more time between the end of the old crop supplies and the beginning of the Midwest harvest. So hopefully that will translate into a better basis than what we're seeing lately.
For those producers here in Louisiana in particular who have planted a little bit more corn, how is this crop report going to impact them at all?
Well, right now it's you know, we've seen the pullback in prices and everything. Most farmers have, you know, X amount of their grain already booked. I think these are good areas right now, given how it looks today, to take a look at what you've got and decide, do I want to add to it? Because if you look at the supply and demand outlooks, you know, right now there's no reason for corn to go higher unless we threaten the yield. And of course, you know, Informa came out with their yield on Monday this past, and they came out with a surprising 152 bushel per acre yield on corn, which is about 3 bushels higher than USDA is using. Now when you see that, you know, you got to scratch your head. Informa is a well-respected outfit and everything, so you know, people pay attention to what they say, but still, I think getting into the 152 areas, it's tall order right now in corn, given the start it had and the troubles it's had. But again, the weather for July and August is going to make both the soybean and the corn crop, so we'll watch it.
Dave, tell us about the weekly rating that just came out and how will that impact Louisiana's grain producers?
Well, the ratings, the way to look at it is to see what direction are we moving in, and if we look at the changes are where we're at right now, we're at 62% good to excellent on the corn. The average is 68. and we're 59% on beans. The average is 63. Now, if you take that gap between where we are and what the average, where we should be, 2 weeks ago it was twice as wide. So the crops are improving since the weather has broken, and that means we're on course, to make a decent yield, and that's what we're going to watch probably more than anything from week to week right now.
Thank you, Dave. He is Dave Bollock. He is the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation's marketing specialist.